Hello, my name is Karina and this is my perfume app. Today I wanted to compare some of the samples that I have to things that I already have in my collection. I really enjoy samples and I've really enjoyed putting samples in a dedicated box. Basically, when I take a sample out and try it, I then add it to my little sample box, and then I just kind of remembered to use up those samples in this box and maybe test them out against different things as I'm going about my day. I do revisit my fragrances often, and I do like to compare them. I'm always going to be curious to see if I can find a less expensive alternative to an expensive perfume, but it doesn't mean that the expensive perfume is bad or dishonest. Like, I don't feel like the more expensive company is trying to trick you or anything. It just, you're going to see similar fragrances. Even if you only smelled high-end fragrances, there would be things that would smell similar. And sometimes there's things that are similar that are like much, much less expensive. And I think those are like the hidden gems. You might call a perfume a steal if it's a very inexpensive perfume that smells similar to a more expensive perfume. I also want to say that I think sampling is pretty cool, and I could see myself only buying samples. I don't think I'm going to do that, but I could see that being like a really good option because, for example, one of them I'm going to talk about, this Telea by Tiziana Terenzi. I was able to get 3 of these 1.5s for, I believe it was $14. And I have worn this one several times, and you see how much I've used. It's such a strong fragrance that I'm not going to use that much. So I'm saying for one of these 1.5s, I'm going to get at least, if not more, 3 full days of wear. And if I have 3 of them, then that means I'm going to get 9 days of wear. And if I'm wearing a different perfume every day of the year, or I'm choosing different perfumes every day of the year because I don't have a signature scent, am I going to wear a perfume, any perfume, more than 9 days a year? You see what I'm saying? That's just, I'm probably not. There's probably not a perfume that I'm going to wear more than 9 days a year. There might be a couple in my collection, but a lot of them I might only wear once a year. I might not even wear them that year. So anyway, this is just sharing samples, and hopefully this is helpful in some way, or at least entertaining. So the first one that I want to show you is the one I'm just holding up. This is Telea by Tiziana Terenzi. This one, the bottle is like a blue bottle with like a kind of a starfish draped over it. Okay, it is so strong. So I learned a little bit about the company of Tiziana Terenzi while I was reading about this perfume. So it's a family-owned company that started out as a wax candle company, and then they eventually started doing scented candles. And now the brother and sister, the sister Tiziana, the brother Pablo makes the perfume, and Tiziana designs the bottles. And the bottles are $200 to $500 each. And this one had something to do with the ocean or the sea. And this is a very marine smelling fragrance. It smells like a blue fragrance, but kind of a blue-green fragrance. It's like supposed to be an ocean scent, but it's not like ocean water. It's more like ocean air, or it's very sweet. Basically, it's not anything that you probably haven't come across before. In fact, I have several perfumes that I think smell like this. Definitely like a blue-green, sweet scent with some woody notes and definitely some oud. This is absolutely one of the most long-lasting fragrances I've tried. Just with one spray, I was crocheting a sweater, and I kept trying it on while I was making it. And I put it on today to continue working on it, and the sweater smelled like it had been like doused in this fragrance. And this, I only was trying on a sweater. This was like going on over another t-shirt The fragrance was on my skin, and it still smells strongly of it. So Tiziana Terenzi, I read an article that they're very proud of like the naturals they use. If I did not read that, I would not think there is anything natural in this fragrance. It smells very, very synthetic and very linear and super long lasting. If they're saying there are naturals in it, I believe them, but I would say that it is like a little bit, like maybe some bergamot or something, but everything else smells just, it's too linear for me to believe that it's a natural. But anyway, as I smell it, I'm like, wow, this really smells like something else I have. And the first thing that I thought of is this fragrance, which is called Sea of Trees by Andromeda's Curse. I've talked about this one a few times. I like this fragrance. Sea of Trees is kind of a play on words because it's sea and trees. This is more, this is harsher. This is a little bit more of like an incensey scent, but it has something very similar. Just that green kind of marine thing is similar. And this is about $12 for a 5 ml rollerball, and this is just a little indie company that I bought on Etsy. But recently I talked about God is a Woman by Ariana Grande. I have this little body spray, and the perfumer here is Jerome Epinette. This also reminds me of Telea. Not in the opening, but in the dry down, there is something similar. Something very similar. And I realized that similarity comes from them both smelling sort of like Amethyst by Lalique. This one is the one I think is probably the most similar to Telea. And again, this is like blackberries and green notes. It's the greenness that is very similar in all three of these. There's just kind of this shampoo-y green thing going on. Telea is also very shampoo-y. In fact, the first time I tried it, I thought, oh, this smells like one of those aquamarine shampoos from the 90s. There's so many niche fragrances that I get that vibe from. And yeah, very similar in the dry down, especially. Not the opening spray, that first little blast is different, but as they dry down, Telea and Amethyst become very, very similar. And there's also a similarity between Amethyst and God is a Woman. And then Sea of Trees just has that blue-green marine thing that Telea has. And, you know, I am going to mention price because, you know, as I'm reading everybody's reviews of like Telea, I'm seeing people write stuff like, oh my gosh, it's on sale for $265. That's the cheapest I've ever seen it. That's so expensive. And I don't think that I would spend that money on this particular fragrance. I could see somebody really loving it. I do think it smells good. It just doesn't smell like $265 or $500. I am curious about other fragrances by Tiziana Terenzi. The sample seller that I buy from on eBay has a bunch of their fragrances, and I think that's what I think they're all three. It's like 3 for $12 or 3 for $14. I can't remember, but I think that's a pretty good way. $14, even though like for samples that seems kind of out of control, but still that's a pretty good deal when the bottles are that expensive. And like I said, if you're getting like 9 wears out of that over the course of a year, I mean, I might not wear it more than 9 times even if I had the bottle. The next thing that I have really been enjoying, I have 2 of them here because I think this is going to kill this one, is the Angel by Mugler, the EDT. So the EDT, I'm pretty sure came out in 2011, and this is pink pepper and bergamot, praline and red berries, patchouli, vanilla, and cedarwood. The EDT has a different perfumer even than the original, and I think that the EDT smells pretty different. The original always reminds me of Obsession by Calvin Klein, the original Obsession. And like I've mentioned before, I don't even necessarily think that I smell patchouli in this. This smells like lavender to me. This smells like a chocolate, like cocoa powder and lavender. And I will say I really, really like it. I was able to get 4 of these samples, I believe, for $12. It's on my full bottle wish list for sure. I really like Angel EDT. I have a bunch of, like, not a bunch. I think I have 2 other Angel inspired by fragrances. One of them, I have this Gourmand Patchouli by Dossier, and I believe that this is based on the EDP. So comparing them, I know they're going to be sort of similar, but sort of different. Oh, right away. Right away, I get that Calvin Klein Obsession thing from Gourmand Patchouli. But I do want to compare all 3. So yeah, right away, this one, at least the Dossier, is thicker and chewier. It's got like that chewy patchouli. You know, they are really different. The Angel is like sweeter in a floral way. But I think that Angel was inspired by Calvin Klein Obsession. The first time I ever went to a store and smelled Angel, I was like, oh, wow, that's just Obsession. And it makes sense because when Angel came out, Obsession would have been around for maybe like 10 years at that point. And it would have been time to kind of like reintroduce something similar, I think. Yeah. I mean, it's not the same. There's definitely more of you notice something that is more gourmand in at least this one and in the EDT. Calvin Klein does not smell gourmand, but there is like a patchouli oak moss and something kind of like coconutty to me and spicy. I loved this fragrance. This was probably my first like amber fragrance that I really fell for, and way back in high school I thought this smelled absolutely great. Still does. I was able to get this vintage bottle on eBay, new in the package. This one holds up if you want to get a vintage bottle. They still smell great. Yeah, the Angel EDT is really different. It almost smells like a totally different fragrance to me. Like more like a lavender chocolate, lighter, prettier, even sweeter in a way, not so spicy smelling. Very enjoyable. And then another one that I've talked about recently, sometimes I'm talking about them several times in videos because once I pull everything out like this, they'll have my attention. So I'll end up wearing these for like the next month. These will kind of be more at the forefront of my brain. So I do start comparing things like more than once because now they're on my mind. But I have this sample of Chanel Coromandel, and instantly, the very first time I wore this and smelled it, I was like, I already have this. Like, what is it? What is it? And then I went and read reviews, and people were comparing Jessica Simpson Fancy Nights. So Coromandel is bitter orange, citrus, neroli, patchouli, orris root, rose jasmine, white chocolate, benzoin, amber, frankincense, and woody notes. And Fancy opens up with bergamot. It has benzoin. It has vanilla, amber, and sandalwood. It's very, very similar to Chanel Coromandel. I mean, to the point where I think you could trick somebody with it. It is rougher around the edges. Chanel fragrances are so expertly blended. They're almost all perfect. Even if you don't like a certain Chanel fragrance, it would be hard not to recognize what good perfumes they are. Like how well blended they are. How the mix of synthetics and naturals, like just how seamlessly they work together. How would I say? It's not like they're never an obvious fragrance. Like it's not like, oh, cake. They're always kind of mysterious and almost atmospheric in a way, but so is Fancy Nights. Fancy Nights was the weirdest fancy flanker in my opinion. It's also been discontinued, but I just bought this bottle for $20. It's just 1 ounce, but I thought it was worth it. You can also get roller balls, like 7 or 8 mil roller balls for like $8. And it is so similar to Chanel Coromandel. It's also long lasting. It's high value. This is a steal. if you like that kind of fragrance. A lot of people will say that it's too much, too swampy, too patchouli. I'm all for patchouli, so I'm not gonna say that. And then next thing, I have something kind of interesting. So the gentleman who sent me Cowboy Grass also sent his own creation, and I believe he said that this was made from essential oils. And he didn't tell me what was in it, I don't think. I had like a letter. I didn't see that in there. But I like it. I can only guess what's in it. But if I had to guess, I would guess that there's geranium and white florals. Maybe something kind of leathery, but just a little bit. I'm really getting geranium, and the only reason why I think I'm thinking that is I had like a geranium essential oil that I really used to like to sniff, and there's something about this that reminds me. So there's no way of knowing. I wouldn't be surprised if I'm totally wrong. I don't think like I have a super nose that can like pick out, you know, a lot of different kinds of notes just by sniffing. But yeah, I definitely smell, it's either jasmine or tuberose, like a sweet jasmine or a tuberose, and something a little bit green. But it actually does remind me of, and good job, by the way, on this. I like it. It does smell really good. And I like that kind of fragrance. I like essential oil fragrances. It reminds me of this one that's pretty new to my collection. This is Headmistress by Solstice Scents. Solstice Scents, the more I explore their perfumes, the more I think like they're the best. This is my favorite indie house because they smell very unique. A lot of the indie houses, like I would say, I've tried a bunch recently from Alchemia, and I have a lot from Black Phoenix Alchemy Lab. And if you had me smell all those, I would think it was all the same company. But I can tell a difference with Solstice Scents. And this one is called Headmistress. It's pretty new, and it is a wild fragrance. So this has muscadine grape skin, cognac, wooden ruler, labdanum, clove bud, paper, oak moss, and spicy purple rose. I think spicy purple rose in this is what's making me compare it to this. There's some kind of rose geranium or something in here, I think. But this Headmistress, oh my gosh. I think there's actual cognac in here too. The one thing about this Headmistress fragrance is I feel like I would smell like alcohol. Like if I had put a bunch on and then was driving around, I would think that if I got pulled over, which doesn't really happen in Indianapolis as a side note, I would smell like maybe I'd been drinking. That's the worst thing I can say about this, but it smells so good. And that alcohol cognac smell does kind of fade fast. And it's just such a pretty floral, wooden, kind of mysterious. It's like the headmistress of a school has a little flask in her desk. Oak moss, clove. This is so pretty. I would highly recommend a sample first, of course. Anything from Solstice Scents. They're kind of a wild house. But I'm very, very happy to have Headmistress in my collection. And I'm also happy to have this cool sample of somebody's homemade fragrance. And I like this bottle. It's very nice. With the, I like the metal roller ball better than the plasticky ones. It's very nice. And the last one I wanted to compare is kind of an obvious one, but I have a lot of samples of Devotion. And when I first got the samples, I kind of just thought, actually the first thing I thought was this is Dolce & Gabbana's answer to Love Don't Be Shy, because it's like a orange blossomy marshmallow scent. So according to the Dolce & Gabbana website, this is candied citrus, orange blossom, and vanilla. Definitely that. And Bath & Body Works recently came out with Loyal to You as part of their Everyday Luxuries. And this has sweet lemon blossom, orange flower, and vanilla marshmallow. This is the same fragrance pretty much. I mean, you know, I went on a really deep dive to see if I could find out if Bath and Body Works partakes in any private label business, but I could not confirm that from anywhere. But this is what I'll say. Okay, there were so many ads for Devotion. I think that Dolce & Gabbana made an incredible amount, just in volume, liquid of that perfume, Devotion. I think that they really wanted to sell a lot. I'm sure they did sell a lot, but I feel like it would have, if there was an extra fragrance, if they made extra, I wouldn't be surprised. And if that extra was sold and body mystified to Bath and Body Works, I wouldn't be surprised. This smells so similar that it's either something like that or it's just an incredibly simple fragrance to make. Do you know what I mean? This Loyal to You is very good and it's very long lasting. I've worn it a couple times. They still have it right now, so catch it on a sale. And then I wanted to compare Devotion to Floral Marshmallow because I do think that Love Don't Be Shy and Devotion have something in common. Of course, this Floral Marshmallow is an inspired by fragrance, and I do prefer it to Devotion. There's just something really, really good about the orange blossom and marshmallow in this one. But at the same time, it's like the same build. So I think that if you liked Floral Marshmallow, you would like Devotion and vice versa. And if you like Devotion, I mean, Loyal to You is a no-brainer, especially if you've already have a bottle and maybe you just want something to make it stretch. This is like a really, really good option. Anyway, do you like samples? Do you buy samples? Do you think having a sample collection is like a good way to save money? I do. Let me know in the comments if you like samples and where you buy them. And yeah, I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye. Subscribe.